Good evening, and thanks for joining us. I'm Christine Matthews, Chair of Visual Communication Design in the University of Washington's Division of Design. Welcome to the 2021 Design Internship PechaKucha. This is the 11th anniversary of this annual event, which started back in 2011. This evening, you'll hear from a series of current design students presenting about their summer internship experiences at a wide range of companies. Although we're not strictly following the traditional PechaKucha format this evening of 20 slides for 20 seconds each presentation will be brief, lasting approximately 6 minutes. There are 15 presentations in total. We're keeping it snappy. The goal of this event is for students to build relationships with each other by sharing their design experiences. And it's also a valuable opportunity to get a glimpse behind the curtain of what it was like to work for these very different organizations. You're encouraged to welcome our speakers by posting positive messages in the YouTube chat. Before we begin, we'd like to acknowledge the people, past, present, and future, of the Coast Salish tribes on whose traditional lands we work, study, and play. Thanks for joining us and enjoy the presentations.
Hello and welcome to my presentation. I just want to share about my internship that I had this past summer with Future Brand. I'm going to start off with an intro to myself. I'm going to talk about how I got the job, what I did when I got said job, and also what I learned throughout the process. So here I am. My name is Abby. I am a BCD senior. In my junior year, like a lot of people, I felt a lot of pressure to get an internship, and I didn't really know how. I didn't know if I was going to be able to. But the first thing I really knew that I had to do was making a website. So I didn't go to any of my internship searches very strategically. I really made a lot of mistakes, learned as I was doing it. But it turned out okay for me. So if you feel like you don't know what you're doing, you're not alone. So my website started out not very good. I made it on Webflow, which was a big learning curve for me. And I really focused on the technicals more than actually making it look really good and make it feel really elegant to use. So it took me a while to figure out that that was my problem, and that's why I wasn't hearing back from people. But when I did, it was around May, I really simplified it. I made it just look as good as possible, really focus on big imagery, finished pieces. Yes, but by that time I thought it was too late for me, but it wasn't. In fact, a lot of more visual design internships open up in the spring, especially with studios. So after fixing my website and just applying a lot on LinkedIn, turning on my filter and applying for every visual design internship I could find, it worked out for me. I got a couple interviews. So when I interviewed with Future Brand, I was pretty psyched. I heard about their work. On the day of, I actually forgot about the time difference. And so I was sitting in class and I got an email saying, "Where are you? Why aren't you at the interview?" And I was like, "Oh dear, what do I do?" So I just leave class. I get on immediately. I take a deep breath. I just think whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen. I didn't have anything prepared, so I just pull up my slides for my branding project and I walk them through that. I talk about my decision-making process and my justification for all my decisions, which seemed to resonate with them pretty well. I also talked about my illustrations and how that's something that I like to do. And the person interviewing me was an illustrator themselves. So we were able to talk about that and really connect over that, which was super exciting and encouraging. I then sent a follow up email just thanking them, and they responded with an offer, which is super fun and exciting. So an intro to Future Brand, they're a big agency. They have lots of different teams, lots of strategy going on there, working with super big brands like Nestle, lots of different packaging, food, you name it. So I was pretty psyched. They also sent me some great gifts. They sent me this plant here, which I really love and is still on my desk. And they also sent me a Pantone color bridge, which I'd always wanted. So I was really excited. The internship itself, I met a lot of people, talked to a lot of people about their job. I'm not really allowed to show you the work that I did itself due to an NDA, but I can talk about it. I started off working on this big track phone project with their brand architecture and coming up with a signature system, learning lots of new phrases for brand strategy. I also got to do a symbol set for that. One of my favorite parts of the internship is when one of my logos was selected by General Motors to develop for one of their possible sub brands that they might do someday. So I was able to develop my logo into a full system with a whole team of people helping me out, which was a great learning process. Super grateful for that. Did some research too, but most of all, I did lots of illustrations. I really made it clear that that's what I was good at, that's what I wanted to do, and everyone was really encouraging about that. So, the things that I learned from my process getting the job, just remembering that there are always jobs out there and you're never too late. Don't worry about the timing that much. Yes, also just don't overthink things. For me, when I finally just tried to make a really nice and clean website, that's when it really worked out rather than a really like unique and wacky one. Anyways, also just trusting your own abilities, trust your intuition, especially like working a job. Nobody really knows what they're doing, so just go with confidence. Also, just taking advantage of the opportunity to ask questions as you're an intern, really great. I definitely learned a lot. And also just to ask to work on the things that you want to work on. You're probably going to hear that advice a lot, but it's great advice. Because doing an internship is about trying to find what you want to do. So, yes, if anyone wants to talk more about branding or to see my projects or anything like that, or even just like talk about branding, please reach out to me. I have a lot of opinions and advice. So, yes, please do that. Thank you for listening, and I wish you all luck. Thank you very much.
Hi, everybody. My name is Edith Freeman, and I'm a senior in VCD. And today I'm going to be talking about my internship at Deloitte Digital over the summer, as well as my current internship at the Jacob Lawrence Gallery on campus. So to start with a little bit of background on my application process, this was by no means my favorite part of junior year. It was quite discouraging to keep getting rejections using a portfolio that I felt really proud of and had put a lot of work into. But just remember, the universe is going to run its course however it's meant to. Trust the process, as annoying as that sounds. You've got this. First of all, just a piece of advice I have is your experience doesn't define you. I think a lot of people make the mistake of only applying to roles where they feel like they can check off every box qualifications wise, but you never know what a company is looking for or what an interview is looking for, and they might fall in love with you and your work and find a place for you other than the role you have initially applied for. And that's exactly what happened to me at Deloitte. I applied for a UX role, didn't really make sense for my work, but they really liked me and then offered me this internship application. So you just never know. And then also, I recommend really paying attention to the people you're meeting, not just the place you're applying for. I left every Deloitte interview I had like absolutely beaming and like radiating confidence and feeling so validated, versus some other interviews I had where I left feeling a little more insecure and confused. So I just recommend trusting your gut, and the people are ultimately who are going to change or force you to change and grow throughout your summer, not like the prestige of the company or the place that you're in. Those, of course, have a role, but the people are ultimately what counts. So just a little bit of information on Deloitte Digital. Deloitte is a massive consulting firm that is all over the world and has a huge reach. Consulting is the practice of helping organizations to improve their performance in some way or another. There are all kinds of consultants. It's still a concept that confuses me a little bit, but to be more specific, Deloitte Digital is a small creative studio within Deloitte, and it provides guidance to companies on things such as branding, UX design, UI design. So it's essentially like a creative firm within a giant company. My role at Deloitte Digital was within the advertising, marketing, and commerce sector. I was a brand design intern, but more broadly, just a visual design intern. I worked under my mentor, who was a design director out of the San Francisco office, as well as the head of design from New York and the chief creative officer of Deloitte Digital. So it's a really cool opportunity. I worked with some like mega leaders in the company, and it was just really awesome. And as an intern, I was really honored to have those resources. So what did I work on? I actually contractually can't show you anything, but just to talk a little bit about the things I did, I worked on templatizing the Deloitte Digital social media, and that was a really great opportunity to familiarize myself with the internal Deloitte brand guidelines. I also worked on marketing and informational materials for SAP, which is a German software company. That was a little bit more dry, but I did get really good with InDesign. I did a lot of typesetting. And then I did some mood boards for a rebrand for an up and coming hearing aid company. That was really exciting because I love branding. I love creating mood boards. And they actually got really excited about some of the more experimental work I did. They clearly wanted like a really vibrant and funky brand, which surprised me for something in the medical field. But yeah, that was really a fun project. Probably my favorite thing I did. And then lastly, I did some magazine spreads for the internal Deloitte Digital publication, The Eighth. I just got to like fit the theme and do whatever I wanted essentially. So I created some spreads about my experience designing a cookbook with my cohort during COVID. So I got to like bring a little bit of home to my internship. My main piece of advice with interning is just be loud and ask for feedback. Don't be afraid to take up space. As an intern, you are a human being and you are a respectable designer. Something I loved about my internship with Deloitte is when I presented to clients, they didn't have me introduce myself as an intern. They were really clear about that. They said, we want you to introduce yourself as a designer because you are our equal. And like, that was kind of the moment that I realized how much I loved my internship. I just felt really validated the whole time. Just make sure that you ask for feedback and you're transparent about wanting that feedback. I was really clear with my mentor from the get-go. I was like, I want an offer here. Tell me how I can get it. I'm not like, don't be afraid to be honest with me, essentially. And yeah, it paid off. And then to talk a little bit about the Jake, I'm including this because it's a very different position than my position at Deloitte Digital. And I also just, one of you will take on this job. And I just think it's so incredible. So I wanted to talk a little bit about it. What do? I'm the graphic design intern. I design all the exhibition identities for the Jake. So I do the vinyl type that's in the entryway and then all the posters. I work under Emily Zimmerman, who's the director of the gallery. And then I also work with artists and students that are showing their work at the Jake on, what they are hoping for the identity. Here's some work that I've done thus far, and I look forward to continuing through the rest of the year. It's just it's a really cool way to like meet a bunch of different people, get exposed to a ton of different artwork. Yeah, I couldn't rave about it enough. And then lastly, here's a little bit of advice just in general. Try lots of different places and environments. As you can see, the Jake and Deloitte Digital are super, super different. And I'm so lucky to have had those two contrasting experiences because it's told me a lot about what I value as a future career path. Also, a company is far more than its reputation. Make sure to avoid going into an interview with preconceived notions. I think that's a mistake I made with Deloitte. I was really skeptical about working in like such a corporate environment. And like, I don't want to end up in a super corporate environment long term, but it really went really well for the summer. And I connected with them really deeply and intimately, and that's all that matters. Also, use your resources. There are so many wonderful people here and at UW, and the professors have such great expertise. So just make sure that you are soaking up all your resources you have while you're at UW. And with that, thank you. Here is my contact information if you need me. Have a good night.
Hey everyone, I'm Ariel. I am an interaction design senior and was a product design intern at Cruise last summer. Today I'm gonna talk about my mental journey in finding the internship, what I do during the internship, and the takeaways and tips. Hope it can help you all feel less anxious and worried about the job hunting process and gain better understanding of what the product design intern would do in the industry. So, who is Cruise? Cruise is a self-driving car company based in San Francisco. It provides self-driving ride-hail services around towns and delivery services partnered with other carrier corporations and retail stores. Its AV technology allows the self-driving car to sense and react to surrounding objects in split seconds and map out real-time driving path according to road conditions. And there are two types of self-driving cars: the Bolt 8110 Mercury and 8100 Origin. Back in October, after so much fun in summer, I started building my portfolio website and resume. Okay, then things happened. The platform I used to build my portfolio is Webflow. For me, I had a very hard time learning how to use it. It was not until early December that I have my first version website finished and my resume revised so many times that I finally felt like I was ready to apply for a job. So really, start early. You can start bits by bits in the summer, start organizing your project, collecting portfolio websites for references, learning how to use the web building tools. Because you never know how long it's going to take for you to be ready, and things are going to pile up as school starts. So I started applying in the middle of December. I have all the companies I applied listed in my notes and checked the checkbox whenever I heard back from the company. As time goes, many checked boxes were checked, but they are all rejections. Looking at my classmates, they were all landing internships, except me. I felt myself very small and behind. I was so pessimistic and doubting myself. What did I do wrong? Why do they not want me? And am I just worse than others? I was in a very bad mental state. Right now, I really want to tell the Ariel at that time, please don't compare yourself with others. Everyone has its own pace, and it's just about finding your pace and master it. Please believe in yourself. It's not your fault or you're not good enough to be chosen. It's just something that happens, and all you can do is just be ready and wait for it. And be sure you have someone to talk to during those downs. Then it's already March, like pretty late stage of the application season. I still sometimes felt depressed, but I don't want to give up. So I continue refining my website, my resume, and practice on my presentations. And in late March, I finally heard back from companies and did interviews and portfolio reviews with them. Although they didn't go well, I learned and improved from every interview experiences. And in early April, I got interview invitation from Uber. The interview and whiteboarding challenge finally went very well. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go all in. It's probably going to be my last time hearing back from company. If I don't get in, I'll just start a passion project and build my portfolio this summer. Then in late April, I was reached out by Cruise Recorder. She found my profile on Jumpstart and thought I could be a great fit for their product design intern position and asked me if I wanted to do an interview with them. I was like, of course, yeah. And I did an interview call with the recruiter, 2 portfolio reviews with the HR and design team. Then in the final interview, I did a 45 minutes portfolio review and a 30-minute Q&A with a manager. And I had both a final interview finish on the same day. And then when I finished it, it's like around like 3 a.m. in the morning in Taiwan. I was like, okay, I got everything done and I'm just gonna chill for a bit. Then after like 1 and 2 hours later, I heard back from both companies and I got offers from both of them. Yay! Yeah, and at the end, I decided to choose Cruise over Uber since I'm very interested in physical product, and the vibe the company gave me during the recruiting process was just so welcoming and nice. So I decided to choose Cruise at the end. So I was the only design intern in the whole product design team. that summer. I was assigned to the consumer delivery team focusing on the consumer experience in delivering and returning orders with Cruise self-driving cars. The team was small, consists of me, another product designer, 2 industrial designers, and my manager. But we have consistent weekly meetings with other designers, UX researchers, engineers to keep us on track on the quarterly product goals and pass along projects, research data, and did critiques on our own designs. During the 13-week internship, I didn't only work on 1 or 2 projects like other design interns do. Instead, I was assigned tasks that were involved in different design stages of the 2 self-driving cars. So it was not a linear process, but a lot of content switching. So it's really testing your ability and applying skills to the design process. I really like this kind of format because I was able to experience and see how the company executes and approach problems in design stages in the professional level. Due to NDA, I can't show much about my contributions on the internships, but I can briefly talk through them. There were 2 main contributions. First is the accessibility explorations on hardware and installations. I did secondary research and field studies on existing machines or installations such as ATMs, Amazon lockers, etc., to help the team understand the current limitations and solutions of existing designs and improve them on the A100 UX experience. While researching, I also did accessibility brainstorming on each step of A100 return flow, which helped our team envision accessibility in our product experience. So it's a lot about understanding the physical products and thinking how users can interact with it. In addition to that, with my knowledge in accessibility design after research, I was able to help organize and host the A100 UX brainstorming sessions for the team by including users' needs of the disabled. It helped the team take accessibility into considerations when ideating solutions. Another bigger assignment I did was redesigning the Walmart in-app return flow to help visualize how our Mercury and Origin concept can work with their service and later present directly to their leadership. So it was a lot of figuring out where in the flow can the cruise delivery service be implemented. A lot of back and forth discussions and revisions on the high-level task flow. When designing the flows, I first documented existing solutions and compared them with each other, also thinking through different scenarios and the needs for those. With the analysis and thorough understanding of the flows, I was able to create return flows that were more intuitive and concise. This would later allow efficient visualization of our concept and other partnerships. Yeah, at the end, I just want to tell all incoming interns, don't worry, you're there to learn and speak up whenever you have questions or need clarifications. They're very nice people, they're very willing to help, and yeah, don't hesitate to ask questions. And thank you all for listening. I hope you'll get something out of it. And if you have any questions about Cruise, about physical product designs, or anything, or just want someone to talk with when applying for jobs, just message me. This is my email and this is my Instagram account. Yeah, thank you.
Hello, we are 3 IXD seniors who interned at Microsoft this summer. My name's Ryan.
And I'm Yuna.
I'm Jasper.
And we all applied through the Microsoft careers page, but we all had very different recruiting process.
Hi again, my name's Ryan, and I was on the Azure Data UX team this summer. So our team focuses on designing for the Synapse product and a few others that live within Azure. And so we make a series of dashboard products that help both data engineers and data scientists work with really large amounts of data to drive actionable insights. And so with a tool this complex, learning and teaching at the beginning of a customer's experience is really, really important to make sure they can get the most out of our product. And so that was the focus for my summer was learning how we can best support every customer at every stage of their learning. And also how we can extend visibility to highlight resources that might live with outside our core product. And so the first half of my summer was testing two conceptual models through expert interviews with both data engineers and data scientists. And this helped align not just our features that we were including and designing for, but also the eventual content that would live within these new learning resources. And in the end, we also designed browse experiences and in-context learning flows so that we can support a variety of learnings. And so that, in summary, was the 12 weeks of my internship.
Hello, it's Yuna. I spent 12 weeks this summer as a product marketing manager intern in the Research Plus Insights org at Microsoft. I spent my internship focusing on these 4 core priorities. My main project was researching the creator's audience. By just asking someone, who is a creator? You will get a range of different responses. Is it a TikToker, a mom Instagram influencer, or a small business owner with an online store? Our goal as a team was to sharpen these personas and potential business opportunities, to bring these really rich human insights from our research into discussions with engineers, designers, and program managers. Pictured here are some methods we used, from designing research activities for online boards to asking questions in the back room of an in-depth interview. I learned the importance of being ready at any moment to adjust research methods and approaches throughout the process, and really making sure to contextualize our data and assumptions. I did a side exploration, not just zooming in on a creator's content creation process, but zooming out at the larger context. I was particularly interested in Microsoft's mission for greater productivity and this reoccurring theme that young creators are burning out and breaking down. I ended up presenting my design research and process at the end of my internship. Thanks to those wonderful NDAs, I cannot show you my exact deliverables, but these blurred screenshots will maybe give you an idea what they looked like. This led me to prototype what Microsoft 365 for creators would be like. I was challenged to stretch my thinking in a product strategy scope while applying my background in design storytelling and ideation. I was absolutely blown away by the collaborative culture and openness for new voices and perspectives at Microsoft. I left this internship realizing the wide range of applications design can have. I now have a very overstuffed toolkit ranging from design to market research to product strategy. Thank you for listening.
Hello everyone, it's Jasper. I spent 12 weeks intern at Windows and Devices Group as an experienced designer last summer. Specifically, I worked within the service team to build a connection between mobile devices and Windows PC. Windows and Devices is a team that crafts experience on both hardware and software side of the product, and many products you probably have heard are the work from this group. People in this team jump between products, which include Surface product, the hardware design for Xbox, HoloLens, and of course Windows OS. To work on a consumer product, you would definitely face a wide range of challenges. No matter what your roles are in this group, fundamentally you are a product maker. Everyone on the team shares the same mission, that is to make beautiful products and experience that people love. Since it is not a super big group like Azure or Microsoft 365, you're actually working very closely with a lot of people with different background and skill sets. From engineers, human factor researchers, to industrial designers. And because it is a very small team, everyone could have a lot of momentum shaping the product. As a UX designer, what you can do is beyond just design. All designers and makers work in the same building, which means you can share your thoughts and ideas instantly with other people. This means you can prototype with an industrial designer, test the software interaction with human factor team, or work on a sizzle video with marketing people. And I really love how collaborative it is to work there. Because it is such an open environment, it enables the team to make software and hardware work seamlessly together. Recent years, the group has spent a lot of time trying to make technologies fade into the background. Meanwhile, they create beautiful touches for details so people could feel delightful while using them. I personally think it is a super interesting time to see Microsoft evolve in design, as they're really trying to focus on experiences that connect products together and give them a unique Microsoft feel. And this really increases the brand recognition and familiarity. It's really exciting to be a part of a product that empowers millions of people to do more. And as an intern, working at Microsoft for 12 weeks was such an exceptional experience. I felt super lucky to meet a lot of wonderful people there, and I learned and grew so much. So here are some key takeaways. First, using storytelling to get targeted feedback. And by storytelling, I mean like it could be visual storytelling and it could be also verbal storytelling.
The second takeaway is build out your personal brand before you start your internship. Reflect on what you love doing, what you're good at, and what brings you good anxiety.
And then lastly, writing to communicate works in progress can be crucial. So understanding the craft as much as crafting an email or a Teams call can be really essential for getting everyone on the same page and getting work accomplished. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Riley, and I'm a senior in visual communication design. And I'm so excited to talk about my experience as a brand design intern at a fintech company called Blend. I thought I would talk about my experience through three main takeaways. So hopefully that will be helpful for those of you who are currently looking for an internship. My first takeaway is think about your goals. And of course, I really emphasize the word think, because you don't need to know exactly what you're looking for or what is going to be perfect, but just really thinking hard about what you want to get away from the summer. So mine was I wanted to find a company whose values aligned with mine. I wanted to work in brand of some sort, whether it was at an agency or in-house. And I wanted to really resonate with the work and the brand of whatever company or agency I was going to work with. And so those were the three things that were really important to me. And of course, those are really big things and things that I think are easy for all of us to think about, no matter what stage in the process of looking for a job that we are in. And so a little bit about Blend. Blend is a fintech software company bringing simplicity, accessibility, and transparency to financial services, utilizing this innovative technology in an industry that is honestly overcomplicated and very outdated. So I was drawn to not only the product, but also the kind of atmosphere of what a fintech company covers. And especially what was really cool in terms of values and company motivations was Blend had the Equitable Ecosystem Initiative, meaning they provide technology that increases financial inclusion and economic opportunity for the underbanked, really using this time and product resources to allocate and drive social impact for underrepresented communities. They also offer the Blend software to minority depository institutions and community development financial institutions at no cost, which is amazing. So I was really interested in the work the company did, the product, and the values that they had. So check mark for one of my goals. Again, I wanted to work in brand, so being on the brand design team was super interesting to me. I got to execute design ideas within the Blend brand canon, while also keeping an eye on new ways to expand the visual language. So this was a cool challenge to kind of work within an existing brand and make really effective work, but also think about what we can do to push it forward and extend the brand. So I got to support both studio and digital teams on projects, and also collaborating with cross-functional teams like engineering, copywriters, marketing, internal stakeholders, stuff like that. And so working in a space with designers and also non-designers was really important to me. So this has seemed like a super cool opportunity. And during the summer, I got to execute mobile and web design, brand template refreshes, illustrations, got to work on employee experience branding, slide decks, social media, web ads, stuff like that. And lastly, I wanted to really resonate with the brand of the company. And so I was really drawn to the Blend brand, because parts of it, look like what a tech company would look like, these nice blues and grays and stuff like that. But then we throw in a serif and some pinks and light purples. And it was really a nice mix of something that I hadn't really seen before. And I was super excited to join the team and start working on the brand. And again, some cool patterns, lovely colors, the brand in use. And the icons I also loved, and they were actually done in-house by the designer Jamie, and they actually enforce a lot of illustration work that we do on the team as well. Another thing I was looking for was how do, beyond just working on stuff for stakeholders or for the product, how does design inform the employee experience and, what it's like to be an employee at Blend? And I thought that some of the work they did internally was super exploratory, really fun and really cool, which just was an ode to the amazing design team and the company atmosphere, which is really important. My second takeaway is pay attention to the people. The people you work with are really important, and they're going to kind of make or break your experience. So you want to be in a space that you can explore and create and feel heard and seen and have a fun time and be trusted with projects. And, you can't tell everything from just meeting a person in an interview, but you can tell a lot. And my Blend interviews, out of all of the interviews I did, were the most fun, the most challenging, and I felt the best after. So that was a big sign for me that this was a place I wanted to be for the summer and potentially after the summer. And so my interviews definitely boded well for my experience. I was always looking forward to what my coworkers would say in the Slack and Zoom meetings and our luncheons and games we played, and the way we talked about the brand. And I just always looked forward to coming to work. Everyone was super nice, really funny, really talented. And I also always felt seen on the team. Whenever I contributed to a product or a design, I always got a shout out, which I really respected and admired from the team. And so, yeah, I also got to meet 2 of the Blend employees in Seattle. We went to Agua Verde by the water and just talked about life and Blend, and it was super awesome and really fun. And, just the sweet goodbye I got at the end of the summer just really was an ode to the whole experience I had during the summer. And everyone was just incredibly supportive. And I grew so much as a designer during the summer, which was the thing I wanted to do the most. So people are super important, the people you're going to work with. And then lastly, make your experience what you want it to be. You will get certain projects as an intern, and you can also hop on to most any project you want if you just ask. And so, they might say no, but the answer is always going to be no if you don't ask. So an example of when I did this was when one of the designers on the team, Ryan, was introducing what the brand was going to be for the Forum conference that we were hosting. And I loved it. I thought it was so cool and really fun use of our brand in a new way. And I really wanted to hop onto in any way I could this conference identity. And so I asked if I could, and I also was interested in doing digital design. So they allowed me to hop on to the Forum mobile version of the site. And so I got to help inform what the web looked like, and also got to completely transform it into the mobile version, which was awesome. And with that, I also got to work on the Blend website, social media, ads, and I also got to completely reshape how we do one-pagers, which is a really important thing when you're kind of discussing what your product looks like for stakeholders. And so having the agency to do this and the trust to do this was a really big step for me, and it was a really big hit, which is super great. And also, we got to do a lot of fun employee experience things. So for example, I got to completely art direct the employee onboarding experience. So we went with the garden theme. How do you grow with Blend U? Blend University is kind of what you take when you first get to Blend, and make it fun and inclusive and a blend. And it was super fun. And this is what we came up with. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the glimpse into the projects I worked on and the takeaways I had. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. I would love to talk more.
Hey everyone, I'm Ashley Sang, and I'm a senior in VCD. I'm going to be talking about my summer internship experience at Fujifilm Sonosite, which is a company that specializes in ultrasound devices. First, I'm going to start off by giving an overview of the timeline of my internship application process. I started applying around October of 2020, and this lasted till around spring of 2021. And during this process, I experienced a lot of portfolio reviews, long, sad hours scrolling through LinkedIn job postings, a lot of rejection and ghosting from companies, and I did have a small handful of interviews from the few companies that did respond. And this was a pretty long and stressful period of time, and as time went on, I felt more and more like it would be impossible for me to get an internship. Here are some of the memes that kind of reflect and summarize some of the feelings that I was experiencing during my internship search. One thing that I did learn was not to get too hung up on rejection and just kind of move on, since getting rejected a lot tends to make you kind of numb to it in a way, whether that's a good or a bad thing. By the time it was spring, I was starting to accept the fact that I probably wouldn't have a summer internship, and I was honestly pretty okay with that. And I was starting to look forward to making some fun summer plans and working on some passion projects, but the world works in really funny ways, and just as I was starting to get really excited about having a relaxing summer, in May, I received an email asking for an interview from Sonasite, and I got my internship offer that same day as my interview. Some small takeaways I had from my interview are honestly to just be friendly and genuine when talking to your interviewers. I think this was especially important for me since my interviews were all pretty conversational and casual, and my interviewers just really wanted to get to know me as a person and designer. Also, put fun experimental projects in your portfolio, because one of the projects that stood out the most to the person that was interviewing me was this penguin countdown claymation I made and had put in the play section of my portfolio. So even though I was being interviewed for a UX/visual design position at a medical device company, they were interested in the possibility of me incorporating motion design into my intern work, which I thought was kind of fun. Okay, so for my internship and role, once again, I interned at Fujifilm Sonasite, which specializes in portable ultrasound technology. My internship was also in person, so I commuted to the office in Bothell every day. And as a visual design intern, I worked on designing user interfaces and screens that would go onto these ultrasound devices. I also made a lot of prototypes for user testing and ongoing and future projects. Here are what some of the devices from Sonasite look like. I worked on both released and unreleased products. Unfortunately, I can't show you what the unreleased products look like, but this was a device that was released last year called the PX, which I worked on a lot. It was also very intimidating to use these devices in person at first, since they're like $30,000 machines, but it was nice to be in person and test out the screens on the actual devices. That was really helpful when designing. Okay, so internship versus school. My design work at my internship was very different from what I was used to here at the UW design program. The medical device industry is very regulated. The FDA has so many regulations to follow, which is important though, since there are a lot of accessibility and risk-related concerns that need to be kept in mind when designing for these devices. Definitely a lot less creative freedom from what I'm used to with my school projects, since you don't want to mess up the existing branding guidelines and information architecture of all the products. I was also designing for healthcare workers and physicians, so there were a lot of things that I didn't understand in terms of their workflows and all the medical terminology, which I will probably never be able to understand, but it was still important to understand the different user types and just design to their needs. There was also a huge emphasis on user testing, which I really enjoyed. I was also really cool to work in very cross-functional teams, since at school I'm very used to designing with just designers, but for my internship, most of the people I was working with were not designers. Like, I had to talk to a lot of developers, the clinical team, engineers, etc., who all have very different but very valuable perspectives and priorities. A lot of the projects I worked on involved thinking about how to improve user workflows, and there were a lot of different user types to work on, even though they're all like doctors and healthcare workers. So, such as anesthesiologists and cardiologists, emergency medicine, ICU doctors, etc., who all have very different workflows and ways they interact with the ultrasound devices. And I also helped with developing the existing design system and designing pattern libraries. And a lot of my projects also involved incorporating like new features and technology, such as AI related features to help ultrasound users' workflows. Unfortunately, because of NDA, I can't really show any of the stuff I worked on, but I did have an independent capstone project I worked on since my mentors wanted me to have something more conceptual that I could put in my portfolio. So for my intern capstone project, I designed a cloud-based platform for hospitals to manage and track their ultrasound devices. So very much focusing on equipment management and location tracking and also some data viz. And for my how might we statement I had that I created was how can we use data visualization and location tracking to manage ultrasound equipment and increase efficiency and organization in busy hospital environments. And here are some mock-ups of just what my final product looked like. I do have full-length task flows, but I still need to put those on my portfolio, which is a work in progress. Okay. Overall, I really enjoyed my internship experience. It was really cool to be able to present prototypes I made to real doctors to help with user testing. It was super valuable to talk to these doctors who were working during an actual pandemic and think about how to improve efficiency and accuracy in their procedures and workflows. I also really enjoyed talking or working in interdisciplinary teams and talking to people such as the developers, the clinical team, the AI people, etc., and learn from them. It was great that they trusted me enough to design for real products, and I learned a lot about designing under regulations and thinking about accessibility, which is really important, and also designing for a lot of different user types and thinking about their unique workflows and use cases. Also, I'm currently still working there part-time, remotely, of course, at Sonasite throughout the school year, which I've been enjoying so far a lot. And to end my presentation, here's just some parting advice to other people, but also just a reminder for myself. And first of all, don't stress too much about adhering to a timeline. I was really stressed about this from like all of October 2020 till spring of 2021, but I ended up getting my offer in May. So just keep in mind that everyone has their own timeline and pace. And another thing is apply to a lot of places, even if it might not be an industry you're familiar with. It's just nice to cast a wide net to open yourself up to as many opportunities as possible. Be open to learning new things when you're on the job. And if you find yourself spending too many hours at a time on LinkedIn, please get off and give yourself a break. And last but not least, believe in yourself because everyone here is super talented and valuable as both designers and human beings. Thank you for listening to my presentation.
Hello, everyone. My name is Betty. I am a senior majoring in interaction design, and I'm here to give a quick overview of my recruiting experience as well as my internship experience at Amazon's UX Lab, which is an advanced multidisciplinary concept design team within the company's devices design group. So, first off, let me just say that my recruiting experience was a bit of a crazy one. So, coming into junior year, I just learned about UX and product design, and I was like, yo, this is my dream job, and I want to learn as much as I can. So I had this like crazy urgency to quickly put together a portfolio and get a student internship and to make sure that I would just make the most out of my last summer in college. Now, throughout my fall and winter quarter, I was pretty much refining my portfolio and resume over and over again, and I was also mass applying to a ton of internships that I would find on LinkedIn and also on this website called interns.design, which I found to be really helpful. It was regularly updated with a bunch of new opportunities, and it also showed some new grad opportunities as well. So it would be a really great resource if you're job hunting right now. But yeah, what would generally happen after I applied to these jobs is the recruiters would get back to me with some design challenges. Some would ask for a phone interview, and some companies would just ask to go straight into the final round interview, which is what Amazon did. For most of these final interviews, recruiters would ask you to prepare portfolio presentations that would be about 2 to 3 projects max. Some people like to present off of their website, but I preferred to create a slideshow so I could kind of cater my projects to the type of job that I was applying to. This was the first time I was really talking to people in a very professional setting, so I worked very hard to create this narrative about myself, and sometimes I would be very confident in what I was saying about myself, but sometimes the more and more I would recite my introduction, the more I would kind of second guess myself, which was kind of terrible. While I will say that doing all of this stuff for recruiting is great practice as I move forward with my career, I wish I didn't stress out so much about how I appeared around these professionals, and I wish I wasn't so nervous around them. I think one good tip is just really being yourself and being confident that you know your projects inside and out. Moving on to my specific recruiting process for Amazon, I applied through referral in early November, and there was a lot of silence until I heard back in March, late March. And the recruiter asked me to do 2 back-to-back interviews, a 45-minute portfolio review and a 45-minute behavioral interview. In most cases, people would hear back 3 to 5 days after the interview, whether you got the offer or not. But after I accepted my offer, there was just a lot of silence until my first manager one on one. For the interviews, you had to download Amazon Chime and you kind of stay in the same room as the interviewers hop in and out. The bar raisers are going to look for these 14 leadership principles as you talk through your projects and answer the behavioral questions. Amazon actually recommends this really awesome framework called the STAR method to answer all of your behavioral questions. And this is just to really help you be really concise with your answers and prevent you from running on tangents and help you answer the questions in the best way that you can. Before all the interviews, I thought of some experiences that would apply to these 14 principles and I framed them using the STAR method. And that I feel like really made the interviewer's job a lot easier as they were evaluating me. But yeah, overall, it was a really great interview, and I thought that they really enjoyed interviewing me as well. And I got the offer eventually. I think the team that they placed me on really made sense because during my interview, I would talk a lot about how my strengths were in ideation and synthesis. So I would say it's pretty important to highlight what you want to do in design and what you're good at in terms of design through your portfolio and the projects that you present. Moving on, here is my amazing office. As I mentioned earlier, everything was remote, and there are definitely some pros and cons to that. A pro is that you pretty much can work wherever you want. A con is that you don't get that human interaction with your team. And for someone who is as animated as I am, I that kind of sucked for me. I was on a super top secret team, and I also signed an NDA, so I can't really talk about anything that I worked on. But here is kind of what my day to day looked like. I would just pretty much sync up with my mentor, my manager, and my onboarding buddy, which was someone who would kind of integrate me into Amazon culture. And the rest of the day would be work days where I just kind of do my project on my own time. And I would also have these kind of team meetups every Thursday or Friday. But otherwise, I would kind of just schedule one on ones with everyone else on the team just to get to know who they are. Or I would branch out to people outside of my team to kind of get to know what they were doing in different departments. I only went to the UX Lab office once in a while to get some work done. I would just take pictures of my teammates' desks just for fun because they've never been there, and UX Lab might be one of those teams that just stays remote even after quarantine is over. I also got some really cool lunch sets that were given to me as like a internship gift. As you do your internship project, there are 2 benchmarks. First is the midterm evaluation, and the last one would be your final presentation. Given the nature of UX Lab and how written everything was, I didn't really have those, and we just did document reads, but all of these things would kind of determine whether or not you get your return offer. Being surrounded by so many talented, very highly experienced senior level designers made me feel like I knew absolutely nothing about design. I was still definitely learning, and I still need to be exposed to so many different types of design, especially if I was interested in new experiences in tech. Working for Amazon made me very introspective about what kind of designer I wanted to be. Is tech right for me? Do I enjoy designing just very specific experiences? Did I enjoy their methods of working? Rather than blindly applying and accepting whatever opportunity comes my way, I've been thinking a lot more critically about the type of design jobs I want. I was also reminded about how fun design should be. When you're working corporate, I feel like there isn't as much creative freedom to do whatever you want and make whatever you want anymore. In my last year here at UW Design, I'm really hoping to take advantage of my time to explore all the topics that I'm passionate about and just to get inspired by the other designers that I meet here. And I really hope that you guys all do too. Thanks so much for listening to my presentation, and feel free to reach out to me about anything. Bye!
Hey guys, thank you for tuning in. Hope everyone's good and welcome to our Pechakucha Talk. I'm Alan,
And I'm Sophie.
and today we'll be sharing our summer internship experience at the Great September Works.
So September Works is a product design studio. It was based in Seattle, but now we all work remotely after the pandemic. And we're really focused on making holistic and creative solutions that not only have business impact, but also social impact. So these are the different types of clients that we worked with this summer. It's really cool to say that Alan and I have worked with clients like Google and Microsoft. It's an ego booster for sure. And we're continuing to work with these clients to this day because we're still interning at September Works. So that's been a really, really great learning experience for us. Unfortunately, the different types of projects that we've been working on at September Works are all under NDA. So while we can't share what kinds of work that we've worked on, we can share what we've learned from this experience and this internship this summer. So I think the first piece of advice that we want to give to all of you is that if you want something, don't be afraid to ask. And I think, as juniors come winter time or springtime, I think everyone's a little bit stressed out about trying to land the perfect internship and just gain some work experience in the summer. And I know Alan and I definitely felt that. And we were convinced that we were just going to take that summer to focus on our portfolio and getting that done. But of course, I don't know what happened, but I had blindly applied to all these different internship positions and I got an offer. So I initially was extended an offer as a design intern from this company named Thrasio, and I had really high hopes. But unfortunately, I learned that the kind of work that I would be doing there was really mind-numbingly boring to me, to put it lightly. So I quickly realized that this wasn't the opportunity that I was looking for, and I knew I wouldn't gain any valuable experiences here. So I remember this guy. This guy is Thomas Ham. He is also the founder and CEO of September Works. This is what he looks like. So I remember that Alan had reached out to me saying that Thomas was hiring a couple of interns for September Works that summer. So I reached out to him on LinkedIn and asked him if I could interview for the position. And thankfully he said yes. So to prepare for that interview, we both of Alan and I presented a brief portfolio deck with a wide variety of different projects that we had worked on so far. And thankfully, because Thomas was our professor, he kind of knew what our skills and strengths were already. So that was a really great interview experience because it was very casual, very low stakes interview, which was great. And I think the next thing that we want to talk about are the pros and cons of working at any job, but specifically a design studio job. Alan, do you want to take it away?
Yeah. So you might think that by working in a small design studio, it's going to be fun and chill compared to working at a tech company. But that's really not the case. There's a lot that goes into working with a small design studio. Usually our schedules are pretty jam-packed where we have to kind of like manage and really time the amount of work we put into a project in order to meet the deadlines.
But I think
And
the best part of working there, definitely, I think the best part of working at a small design studio like September Works is the people. So thankfully, because our team is really small, we got to really know and learn and just become friends with our coworkers. And it was so nice. We got to meet them in person after working remotely all summer. Yeah, I think knowing and loving the people that you work with is going to make you love your job like 10 times more. So I think when you're looking for a specific company to work at, really just look at the people and the relationships that exist within the company itself. Right, Ellen?
I completely agree.
And as you can tell, we have a lot of fun on the daily. So it's definitely very relaxed work environment for sure.
I would say that you guys should start off by looking for a small design studio. It's a great experience and you definitely learn a lot going into any other internships. Let's say if you want to go for a tech company, you'll definitely have that background knowledge, even if it's a small design studio that you start off with.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think at a design studio, just by nature, you work on a wide variety of projects and different tasks. So I feel like the experiences that you get and you learn are wider than what you might learn at a typical, product design internship role at Amazon or like a big tech company. So I would definitely recommend to anyone. It's a really great place to learn.
Moving on, for tip number 3, you know more than you think you do. At first, you might think when you're applying for internships that you don't really know much because you don't have the experience, but in reality, you really do. UW Design program does a great job in teaching you. And basically what you learn in class is sometimes what you're really using in the workforce.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of the things that you maybe don't already know, you'll definitely learn on the job. I think that's the point of gaining work experience, is that 90% of the things are things that you're going to learn on the job and while you're working or interning at a specific company. So don't feel like you're unprepared, be confident, and you always have the option to go study up on things that you don't really know too much about. There's a bunch of great resources out there, so put them to your advantage.
Yeah, really
Put them to use.
Really spend the time outside your internship to really kind of focus on something that you don't know, to really get the grasp of it, so that when you come back and kind of go through that experience again, you already know what to do because it's already expected.
Yeah. Okay.
Tip 4, it's okay to make mistakes. It's part of the process. Making mistakes might feel overwhelming, but in reality, that's how you get better as a designer and as a person. So when you make mistakes, don't let it put you down. Take it with grace and really try to learn from those mistakes in order to grow.
Yeah, and I think most internships, especially like the companies that you work for, know that you may not know everything that you're expected to do yet. So they expect you to fail. So don't be afraid or intimidated that you made a mistake at your internship and everything is like, you're not going to get fired. They are already expecting you to fail because you learn from your mistakes and you learn from failure. And that's the whole part and the whole point of having an internship or work experience, is learning and growing from it. So I wish you all luck. Alan and I, we hope you learn something from our PechaKucha, and please reach out if you have any questions.
Hi everyone, I'm Joanne, and today I will be sharing with you my internship experience this past summer. Just to briefly introduce myself, I am a interaction design senior. And in the past, I have a few experience in like doing graphic design, visual design work, and also a bit of UI UX design work. And with these experiences, it has really helped me with this new experience that I had. And but it wasn't that of a, like an easy process for me. It actually was pretty long from September to like when I actually landed a job in April. And in September, that was when I started to prepare my portfolio and, updating my projects, etc., and started to apply. And after I applied to the jobs, I waited and, keep applying. And then I finally heard back from one of the companies. But then when I went to the final round, the recruiter just ghosted me. So that was really unfortunate and like not like a really good experience for me. But I just like kept applying and, just hoping that, you can find a fit between the company and you and find a skill set that matches you. And so throughout, there's a lot of like, rejections and keeping apply applications and stuff like that. But in the end, I got a bit more comfortable with, communicating with people and presenting myself. So thinking more about like interviewing as a process for a company to get to know you better and also for you to get to know the company better to see if you would enjoy the culture there. And I think that mindset really helped me. And around April, like early April, I got my offer. So that was really exciting. And this is just like a screenshot of, how I documented and organized the jobs that I have applied to and just to keep myself organized. But yeah, the company that I interned at is called MindGrub, and it's a design agency and consultancy based in Baltimore, Maryland. And they're a company around 200 people, not too big, not too small for a design agency. It has like marketing, strategy, design, and engineering team, and people really work collaboratively. People are really nice, friendly, and we have meetings and host like design meetings a lot. Which is really fun. And so I also want to briefly talk about the project that I did and mainly about the process and how it compares with the work we do in class. And so since it's a design agency, this is like a really project specific work that I did. And the work that I did was a responsive web for HR managing tool that welcomes new employees on board. Helps learn about the company, their teams, and manages their work schedule. And so I was hired as a interactive designer, and the other person, Lan, who was also working on this project, is a UX designer. But essentially, we were working really collaboratively on this part, from ideation, wireframing to usability testing. Yeah, and so when I started out, there was my manager told me that this would be a redesign and expansion of the app that they already have, which is a directory flashcard-based experience for employees. And so this is what the original like screen looks like. So essentially, it's a something like Quizlet where you can swipe left, swipe right to see what it looks like, and also like get to know your teammates. So what their name is, their department, and their role. But essentially, it was just like a really basic design and not really something people would use on a daily basis. So this was like a major redesign for this platform where not a lot of people know about that in the company. So we were really thinking about how to add value to that. And we started with, ideation from app analysis, and then thinking about how we could maybe add certain features. Like example here would be gamification to make it more fun and playful. And then in this process, we had to demonstrate it to the team and meet up with and discuss and present what our ideas were. And so after that meeting, we had like a more solidified idea of how we could both encompass new employees and also seasoned employees for this product that we're doing. And then afterwards, we are also able to do a design workshop and meet people from engineering team and design team, both UX and UI designers, and to get like a idea of what kind of features was possible within the time frame that we have, and what would be most useful for both seasoned and new employees coming in. And then we did wireframes, which is like really similar to what we do in class, and solidify the features that we want in here, and also to just visualize it a bit more. And then the step we were thinking about doing different style tiles, thinking about the look and feel of this product. And this was me trying to think about certain directions that we could take it into. And so here are just like some shots of that. And also in between, we would have meetings to discuss what could be what would be more scalable in that sense, and something also thinking about how we could maybe implement it and sell it if we want to sell it to other companies, how that would look like. And yeah, we then prototype it and design the whole thing. And then in the end, we also have like a final presentation with the team and to talk about it. And throughout, I was really like collaborative with my manager. Like I could keep him up to date and on a daily basis, and talk to him about whether this design suggestion was good or not. And yeah, we were also able to talk to the engineering team and see what was possible, what sort of data we could pull from the original service that they already have, and see what employee information we could put in here. And so that was really a new experience for me, where I was collaborating with different teams and seeing what's possible within that. And then I also got to do a lot of cross platform design. So here you see a desktop version and a mobile version. So I got to think a lot of the components and how they could translate to each other, the different user experience, etc., and really fleshing out the details. And it was like a really fun experience for me to design something that was more work-based, which I didn't have a lot of experience with that. It was really fun. And I also had this design system document to show it to when I hand it off to the engineers, so that they could have really specific measurements. And also, if people wanted to continue working on this project, they will be able to have these files in hands that are organized, and they could keep developing that design system and language. And we also got to do some user testing, which was pretty late in the stage. We were really careful and detailed with the design. So in the end, what we did was doing a future roadmap, just to see what kind of feature could be further implemented, and some of the features and also functionalities that could be really adding value to this application. So yeah, we hope that this one we were really excited about this project, and we wanted it to be something that's being completely implemented in the future. And throughout this project, I was really collaborative with my manager, and I was really glad with the whole process in communication. And so something that I've learned throughout is, you have to keep going, and you when you're applying, just believe in yourself, taking initiative to meet with your manager or your teammates to discuss work. And also, if you want to learn anything, tell them. If you want to go into meetings with clients, tell them, and see what they can do with that. And one thing that I learned a lot throughout this was also I could go shadow with for client projects and see how other senior designers are doing it. So that was a really fun experience. And yeah, that's a brief introduction to my past experience interning at MindGrub.
Hi everyone, I'm Lavi, and today I'll be sharing my experience this summer as a product design intern at the New York Times. So you might be wondering, what does product design mean at a news company? If you think about the traditional newspaper, it sort of has something for everyone. Whether it's the classifieds or the crossword puzzle or the actual news itself, everyone can have a piece of the pie. And of course, it's expanded out towards our digital devices. So the New York Times has also expanded their coverage to separate products. And on one side is the newsroom itself, and the other side, it's the standalone products, which includes games, cooking, audio, Wirecutter, and kids. And this summer, I spent my time on the New York Times audio team, where I got to experiment and design different ways of sharing audio journalism and supporting audio editors in promoting curated, quality listening content. In thinking back on the timeline of this journey, I remember cold applying to the intern cohort in early 2021. And around this time in our interface class, George Pechnik, who's actually the head of product design at the Times, came to our class and shared some of his career experience and about his new role at the Times as well. I remember, although I wasn't able to connect with him afterwards, his talk made me really intrigued about what product design could be outside what you would normally call a normal techie environment. So about a month later, I actually heard back from a recruiter to schedule a 15-minute phone interview. He provided the question he'd asked me also, which was, what do you want to learn from an internship at the Times? To answer this question, I really thought about how the news contributed to my own life and how it contributed to the way I understand the community I grew up in. And I really spoke to that. I remember leaving this interview feeling pretty good about it. A month later, I heard back for a final panel interview. I was told that I didn't need to prep for a portfolio review or any projects to share, but rather it was going to be pretty casual and they'd ask me pretty general questions and behavioral questions. I remember some of the questions being, why are you interested in product design? How do you go about solving problems? And how do you work with others? I remember them also providing a list of teams I could choose from. So I did a bunch of research about who I was going to be talking to, thought about how my projects could relate to the teams I was interested in, and think about how my interests could also play a role in how people interact with the news. I also left this interview feeling pretty good, but also a little bit nervous, because at this point I felt super invested in the people and the teams I had met and learned about already. I sat on the edge of my seat for a week until I got a cryptic message one day from my recruiter. But to fast forward, I had gotten the offer. On June 1st, I started my first day at the Times. And during this time, I was also super stressed out from finishing up my spring quarter final work and also a magazine for a club I was in. While I was worried about, waking up at 6 a.m. for East Coast time, my team was also super flexible with my working hours and what I had on my plate, and for that, I was super thankful. Here are some program details as part of my internship program. We had various workshops to build our careers as young professionals. And if you listen to The Daily, we actually got to hear and talk to the host of The Daily, Michael Barbaro, and Dean Paquette, who is the executive editor at the Times. One of my favorite things of the program was actually the intern newsletter, which I'll speak more about later. So the main thing I worked on during the summer was the New York Times audio app. Most of my work is under NDA, but I can speak to some of the contributions, such as voiceover documentation for accessibility, exploring how we could promote show trailers in the app, also testing some of these features in user feedback sprints, and the inclusion of alerts to the update of the app itself. All these pieces of work kind of carry different weights for the app as a whole, but I felt like they gave me a really holistic view of design and how it integrates itself into the journalistic world, which also feels super formative to my career as a designer. But if you want to learn more about the app, check out the New York Times audio site, and if you're interested in really trying it out, you can even sign up to join the first batch of users to test out the app. Another thing I worked on was an exploratory project that I led by myself. For this, I clued in on the aspects of the app I was most interested in, which was thinking about the social dynamics around podcasts and shows and how they're shared. In this project, I walked through the whole design process from interviews with folks from the org to concept generation and even testing in a user feedback sprint at the end of my internship. At the end of the internship program, our whole cohort got to work on something different from their normal projects, sometimes iterating off of existing products and features they worked on, or developing something completely different. For myself, I teamed up with other product designers to lay out some foundational accessibility documentation that could be integrated into the audio app or even across other products as well. And I also worked on another project with an engineering intern on the audio team to explore how the audio app could be scaled, specifically how it could look and feel for the iPad. One of my favorite parts of the intern program was the intern newsletter. For this, I got to be the designer on the newsletter team to help document our experience and learnings from the summer and share it with the rest of the Times company. I actually highly encourage taking opportunities on the side like this if you can. It's not only like a good way to connect with people outside of your regular one-on-ones, but also it can show your commitment to the culture and the learning at large of the company. But to conclude, I feel like I got a solid understanding of what it meant to work in a super cross-functional environment. I found it amazing to work amongst such smart and supportive people, and it felt really like a great family in the larger company as a whole. I'm also happy to share that I'm still working part-time at the New York Times. This is just a screenshot from one of our recent meetings where we all celebrated the launch of the audio app to a new group of beta users from all over the US. So my first takeaway from this experience is embrace being a young designer. In the beginning of my internship, I felt super vulnerable jumping into like a new space I had never worked in before, but I realized it was important to embrace the fact that I was a lot less experienced and stay curious about what I didn't know. Another thing I learned is if you want something, ask for it. Try to be straightforward with your manager and your team. It's okay to take time to adjust to a new place, and if you need help, ask for it. If you want to learn something new, ask for it. Let yourself be a newbie in this new experience, and don't forget to trust your gut when asking. My last takeaway is that professionals are not that scary. The more I found myself reaching out for one-on-ones and asking for feedback, the more I found it helpful to adapting to the workplace. No matter where you work in the world, people are people. Just be yourself and don't take everything too seriously. So yeah, thanks for queuing in on my presentation. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions or ever just want to talk. Thanks, guys.
Hello, this is Ashton and I'm here with Vera, and we're going to be talking about our summer experience at Intuit. Intuit specializes in financial software and owns TurboTax, QuickBooks, Mint, Credit Karma, and recently acquired MailChimp. This summer, 4 of us from UW Design interned at Intuit. It was me, Aoife, Daniel, and Vera. At Intuit, we separated into a few different teams. Aoife and I went to QuickBooks, which builds tools for small businesses to help them manage their taxes and other business needs. Vera and Daniel were on the Intuit Design Systems team, which creates a cohesive design experience across products. This journey started when we applied for this job on Handshake over winter break. A few months later, we received a notification that we had moved to the next round and have been invited for an interview. Unlike previous years, where a portfolio review was conducted before an interview, we only had to do 1 round of interviewing. This was likely due to COVID. After that, we were given a design challenge a few days before our interview. We had the option to choose between 2 prompts, a more creative one helping Batman fight crime, and a UX-focused pizza app redesign. I chose the Batman one as I felt like this would be more fun to make. Though we were only expected to spend 3 to 5 hours on this, we ended up spending double or triple that to make sure our designs were good. This is what my final design ended up looking like. I wanted to show my visual ability through a clean design, but also made sure that all of my decisions had a UX justification that was backed by the research I did on Batman.
Along with presenting our case studies, we also presented a short introduction as well as a personal project of our choice. With all of these presentations, our interview ended up being a little over an hour long. When it came to picking my personal project, I chose to present a passion project that I did over the summer with friends. But another good choice for such project would be anything from design methods that shows your knowledge of the design process, which is what Ashton decided to present. After asking us questions about our presentation, they asked us various behavioral questions. In order to prepare for these questions, we made sure to study Intuit's values so that we could showcase how our answers would align with what Intuit was looking for in their designers. We also made sure to use the STAR method to thoroughly answer each question. 2 hours after my interview ended, I had already received an email from Eric asking to chat over Zoom. During the Zoom call, he immediately presented us with a verbal internship offer where he outlined information for next steps. After accepting the offer, a couple months later, we received an email with our project placements. While we were excited to get started, we were slightly disappointed by the fact that we did not have a say in our final placement, which was something that we were told we would have input on when we presented with our offer. Despite the fact that we couldn't pick our placements, we were all still super excited for what the summer would bring.
A few weeks before our internship began, we received a package of materials that would help us during our internship, such as a laptop. But we were also given a lot of free stuff like a backpack, a keyboard cleaner, and other fun stuff that we still use today. Once our internship actually began, we got our more specific team assignments, such as me being on auto payroll, Vera and Daniel on design systems, and Aoife on Project Lego. Because Intuit is such a big company, we never really saw each other in meetings, so if we did want to see each other during the day, we would just hop on a call and send a Zoom link to one another. Most intern teams at Intuit take on a 3-person triad, with one person being the designer, the other a project manager, and another as the engineer. However, in Vera's case, she only had an engineer partner, and I only had a project manager partner, which made it so that my project couldn't be developed during the course of my internship.
So what did we exactly do during our internship? While most of us worked on a couple of different projects, we all had one main project in which we followed the design process from start to finish. For me, this project was to develop a system that would help designers throughout Intuit better utilize the company color palette, since this was becoming such a big issue as the company continues to expand. I started out my process by talking to various designers on different teams to figure out what users wanted and needed the most help with. From there, I did a lot of brainstorming to figure out what the best solution could be. And then I did a lot of prototyping and user testing to really make sure everything worked effectively and efficiently. In the end, I had designed, and with the help of an engineer, fully developed a Figma plugin that helps designers find specific colors for their specific needs while designing. It also helps them find accessible pairs and does a color check of all their designs while they're working in Figma.
I can't talk much about my project as it's still under NDA because it's currently being developed, but most of my time here at Intuit was spent actually understanding my problem space, understanding what it means to be an auto tax on user, and all of the laws that surround taxing small businesses. I think Intuit is really a good company to go to if you really like working with constraints, because the tax world is super constrained by how these tax agencies actually work. If you want to learn more about my project, reach out to me in a few months because that's when this will be in production.
At the end of our 10 weeks, all of our hard work was done and we finally got the chance to present our final projects. This was a really fun experience where we got to reflect on all of our work and finally got to see what all the other interns were working on. Looking back, there are a few key things we really wanted to share about our time at Intuit. The first is that there wasn't a lot of actual designing. When working for a large company like Intuit, there's a lot of components and patterns already set in place. So when it comes to designing or updating products, you focus more on utilizing what's already there rather than designing completely from scratch. The next thing is that you have to make sure you're not afraid to advocate for what you want. Most managers during your time at an internship just want to make sure that you are enjoying everything and learning what you want to learn. So if there's something that you want to focus on, all you have to do is talk to your manager about it. When I first started, my final project was not really well defined, so I made sure to take the time and discuss with her what really interested me about design systems, and as a result, my manager worked closely with me to tailor the project I ended up doing, which made my time at Intuit that much more fun and special.
Another takeaway is that sometimes it's hard to feel like you have a big impact in such a large company. I think a lot of the times our solutions were limited either by the developer's timeline or what's actually possible within the product. So sometimes you feel like you're just making a band-aid solution to a much bigger problem. And the only way to really avoid that is by making kind of an ideal state that people can look at in the future and see, oh, this is how this could work if the product was perfect or if our back end worked differently. So that's something that really helped me, but I think this is overall kind of a theme in tech. Another important takeaway is to ask people for help. I think I met with my manager at least twice a week just for her to critique my work and give me advice, and this definitely helped me more than anything else. I think you have to realize that your manager is just there to help you, so don't be afraid to talk to them, and they know that you're an intern and that you don't really know a lot yet, and that's completely okay. Just sort of embrace the fact that you can ask whatever you want without feeling stupid. And the most important takeaway I have is that money is good, but is money worth it? And this is something I've grappled with a lot. You know, tech is a lot more high paying than studio work, but if you see yourself as more of a visually oriented person, put the money behind you and just go for what you want, because at the end of the day, you'll be working from 9 to 5, and if you're doing something you don't enjoy, it's just not going to be fun for you. It's important to pick something you're passionate about and go for it, because this is what's going to make your life a lot better.
Thanks for listening. If you have any questions about Intuit, feel free to reach out to any of us who have interned there.
Hi there, my name is Lauren Abbott, and I am a senior in the VCD program, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about my summer as the brand design intern at Zendesk. So I'll just share a brief summary of what Zendesk does.
Zendesk makes customer service software, and it works right out of the box. It is also completely customizable and scalable and connects to the rest of your business. But no matter how you use it, Zendesk is designed to help you give your teams what they need so that your customers get what they want.
Yep. So it is a customer service software company just based out of SF, but I did this work remotely. And a little fun fact, I was able to
Zendesk makes
work on that video. I'll talk a little bit about that. So I'll briefly talk about the interview process. I received an email from a recruiter asking to schedule a phone screen. And so that was the first step in this process, was the initial phone screen by the recruiter. They were not in the creative team, so I'd recommend to use a lot of buzzwords to make it sound like you know what you're talking about. And they'll usually like that, and they'll send you to the next step. So the next step for me was presenting a sample deck to the hiring manager. And I'd say focus on presenting work that is relevant to the job. So I talked a bit about my branding project, and it showed how I was able to work with a brand. And then finally, I had 2 interviews with a producer and an art director, and these were very conversational. So I'd say let your personality show. This is where they want to know that you can be a great coworker and that you know what you're talking about, but also you're pleasant to work with. And this is also a chance for you to interview them. If you're tossing between a few offers, this is a way for you to weigh the options of, do I want to work with people who I had a great conversation with and know that the culture is going to be really great and there's growth, or maybe a place is like has better clout, but it's not going to be an enjoyable experience. Like, this is a way for you to make a decision as well. And I'd say send a thank you note. This is self-serving because I was using a Zendesk product to send, but also it's just a way for you to get your name heard and seen once again. And it is a mature thing to do. So I'd highly recommend send a thank you note. So briefly, I'll go through what I did. This was the first time they ever did this internship. So I kind of got to choose my own adventure. Right away, they had me working with the brand on typography and setting type, but then I was able to work in color for optimization and accessibility online. The video was an opportunity for me to work in a group and set up graphics for the animators. I also made some other decisions for guidelines. I did a bit of art direction, which was very exciting for their website. And then finally, I got to work on a print ad. And this is something that I'll claim ownership of because it was just myself and the art director, and we worked together and we made this ad in a week. And I'm very, very proud of it. So my tip Number one would be ask about how to get involved in projects you're interested in, even if it's just to sit in the meeting. This was a way for me to get involved in projects that were outside of brand. And so I got to flex some muscles that were beyond the job description and make connections with people outside of my team. And so I'd say, like, make use of the connections that you have. Zendesk has it's a 120-person creative team, but that also comes with 3 different umbrellas. And then on top of that, there's copywriters, animators, musicians, every single thing you can think of. And then ultimately, this group of people was brand design, all the people I really got to know and get to work with and still get to talk to. And I'm very lucky for that. So I'd say tip number 2 is show your personality on Slack and schedule as many one-on-ones as possible. You might be working in a hybrid situation, but for me, I was fully remote. So the only way for me to show who I was online. So I would have little emojis. I would just kind of mess around, send photos, joke around, just to be me, but online. And if I wanted to create closer connections, I would just look at people's Google Calendar and then I would say, hey, I noticed you have some empty time. I'd like to have a one-on-one with you. And we would talk for half an hour about their career and life. And it was a great way for me to make those connections and also just be a coworker, be a friend, be somebody. And by doing that, I'm still talking to some people I worked with because we really connected and I got to learn a lot from them. And then finally, I'd say your worth is not based on where you've interned. I know we create a culture in design that this is the end all be all and you're not going to make it if you don't get an internship. But again, it's not true. I may have just talked about the internship I did, but also I had anxiety about it too. And I'd say if something doesn't happen this summer, there's a reason. And maybe it's time for you to just figure out and do a personal project, but you're still going to have an amazing career in design, even if you didn't intern for 3 months over the summer. So don't stress. We got you. And that's my final thing is thank you. But number 2 is, I don't know if they're hiring an intern for this following summer, but they probably are, but use me as a resource. I'm here for you. This is my email. It's my Instagram. Please reach out. I'll do everything I can. Thank you so much.
Hey guys, this is Eugene and I'm here with Yasmin to share our experience of interning at Nike as digital product designers last summer. During this presentation, we are going to cover the recruitment process and we'll each share our internship project and lastly, our thoughts on the internship and working at Nike overall. Here's a general timeline of our internship for reference. Yasmin and I went through a very similar process. Although the office is located in Beaverton, Oregon, this 10-week internship was entirely remote. I started applying to internship at the end of winter quarter before I submitted the application for Nike in March. I went through the cycle of applying and getting rejected, and Nike was one of the few companies that reached back to me. And the process of applying and interviewing for Nike was very straightforward. It only took about a week from the phone screening interview to the verbal initial offer, which all happened in April. I found about this internship through job posting on LinkedIn and applied on the Nike website. And after a month later, the recruiter got back to me for a 15-minute phone interview. This interview was very brief. It was just about confirming my basic information like graduation dates and visa status. And they asked me if my portfolio site was ready to be shown to the design team. And a few days later, I received invitation for a 30-minute Zoom interview with the hiring manager. I was given about 2 days to prepare for the interview. Although I generally had a good impression of their marketing campaigns and storytelling strategies, I knew very little about Nike, and I only had like 1 or 2 Nike items. So I spent some time doing research about the company and their digital products. I looked up interview questions on Glassdoor, and I know that Yasmin made presentation slides and practiced presenting in front of her peers. During the one-on-one interview with the senior designer, I was asked to walk through my resume and share my design process, experiences with prototyping tools, and my interest within the field of design. And at the end, I also had some time to ask him about his experience working at Nike and the type of projects that the team works on. I was very nervous about this interview because I had zero paid work experience. Also, I had very little interview experience. But luckily, I ended up quite enjoying conversation. And a few days later, at the end of April, I got the internship offer. Okay, so I'll be sharing about the team I joined and my internship project. I was in the Nike app and retail team. So this team leads digital integration in Nike Store to enhance physical retail experience. The Nike app is used for online shopping, but the user can also unlock new experiences when they enter Nike Store with Nike app. This team works on the features for in-store mode of the Nike app, such as requesting fitting rooms and shoe sizes, receiving special offers and exclusive products, and checking out items in the app. This team is unique in that they work on not only on the features of Nike app, but many other things that bridge the gap between digital and physical experience, like digital signage and self-checkout system. Here's my team. They went on a zip-lining trip, but I wasn't able to join because I was working from home outside the state, sadly. But on the right, there's a team during the creative review giving feedback on my storyboards. I will briefly show what I've done during the 10-week internship. So I worked on designing an augmented reality experience for the Nike's Move to Zero campaign that will be integrated into the Nike app. Move to Zero is a comprehensive sustainability plan and campaign designed to help protect the future of sports. So the goal of this project was to empower consumers to learn Nike's journey towards zero carbon impact. I had to create storyboards showing how the user would begin the AR experience, where the point of interactions are, what they will learn, and what the users would gain at the end of the experience. This storyboard was specifically based on the Nike store that recently opened last summer in Seoul, Korea. I spent majority of my time on the storyboards, ideating, sketching, and revising after creative reviews. I created tons of sketches, and there was a very little structure to this project, so I was given a lot of creative freedom. Sky was the limit as long as I could explain what technologies go behind these experiences to make them possible. During this project, I also had chances to collaborate with the copywriter and an environmental designer who designed the store to help polish the storytelling. And at the end of the internship, each intern had to put together a presentation to showcase the project in front of all the teams under global digital design. So I got to do some 3D and motion prototyping as well. This is the overview of the AR journey, showing where all the stops are located within a section of the store. And I'm showing you short snippets of the presentation. So this is one of the onboarding pages. This slide shows how the consumer would engage with physical items in store at one of the stops. I learned a lot about what it takes to bridge the gap between digital and physical experience. I was challenged to stretch my creative thinking in many directions while considering Nike's personality, their target consumers, and touch points. My project was completely internal, but I was told that the team would use these storyboards as foundation to eventually bring it to life in a year or two. I found that Nike they allow a lot of creative freedom on internship projects, but as a full-time designer, you would have more constraints to work with. Through this internship, I was introduced to interaction design in retail, which I think is a very interesting area to explore. So yeah, that was a brief overview of my internship project. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Yasmin, a VCD senior, and I'm also going to be sharing my experiences working with Nike this summer as a digital products design intern. My recruitment process was really similar to Eugene, so I'm not going to go into depth about that. But sort of starting with the experience overall, it all depends on what app you end up working on within digital product design at Nike. And so for me, I ended up being on the home and retail app, specifically within the home and content team. And so here's me and the team. And specifically what they were in charge of was this landing page on the Nike Home app. So what I got to do throughout the summer was attend any of the design meetings that my team went to. And then also just, if I wasn't doing that, I was meeting new people. You get set up with a lot of different one-on-ones, and people aren't allowed to turn down a one-on-one. So that's just something that everyone encourages you to do throughout the summer. And then Nike also hosts a lot of different Zoom events that you could attend, which are pretty cool. And then finally, most time also went to the intern project that was assigned. And that's also sort of what I'm going to be going into. Because my team was one of the bigger teams overall, they had nothing in the design phase, which is why I was able to work on a hypothetical project. But I know some of the interns on smaller teams got to work on projects that actually got built into the app. So yeah, my little prompt for my project was to create a hyper-personalized experience on the Nike member home that increased engagement and retention while encouraging activity and leaning in on community. And the big thing about Nike is that everything they do is always going to want you to encourage activity in some way. And so what I got to do throughout this process was analyze research that my team had already conducted, conduct workshops, conduct user interviews, ideate wireframe, and then create a final video of a prototype to present to the whole design organization at the end of the internship. And so it was pretty much like I was the team lead on a little project and my team was all backing me up. And so I had weekly meetings with my manager and mentors to make sure that I was staying on track. So quickly, just to show like what the project kind of ends up looking like, I ended up making sports and interest-based groups people were able to join that were recommended by the Nike app. And people were able to just share their experiences, important locations, and interact with each other within these groups. And the idea is that as people interacted with these groups, their member home became more personalized. And so here we got the user discovering the different communities. This was just to show the user interacting with some aspects of the community. And then here was just an example of sort of the member home / homepage before and after the user got to interact with different groups. And so yeah, this was just to show that it gets more personalized over time. So this is an example of what it might look like to work on a project with Nike over the summer. And so, yeah, I guess some of the things I learned throughout this process in general is mainly that you don't need to be a sports fanatic to work at Nike or a sneaker fanatic. That's something I was pretty worried about. But a lot of the people there, actually, I met a lot of people who didn't know much about sneakers or sports before they started working there. Another thing they really value is self-initiative. A lot of time they don't tell you to do things, but they just expect you to do it, or they just want you to do it. And then finally, I remember I was pretty intimidated because I'd never really led a product design project all by myself, but just to kind of reiterate, we go to a school that like really prepares you for this no matter what kind of major you're in. So just to kind of hang in there if you're feeling stressed during your internship, because you guys all got it, we all got it. So, and then me and Eugene kind of just were talking about the main takeaways that we got from the company culture as a whole. And the main things we noticed were that they have a really strong focus on the branding experience. Everything you do is going to have some sort of branding tagline behind it. The culture seemed as though it really had a great focus on health and wellness. The month of July, no one had to go to work on Fridays to encourage people going outside. And Nike also has this thing called Nike United groups, which are different cultural groups you can join just to sort of meet people within your different cultures at the brand, which I think was really neat as well. And then the other thing is that digital design at Nike is very, very new. And because of that, it does have that sort of newness vibe, and there also is a bit of a lack of resources. And overall, me and Eugene both agreed that everyone we met there was like so awesome and laid back for the most part. So yeah, that was about it. If you guys have any questions or anything, totally feel free to reach out to either of us. But yeah.
All right, hello everyone, whoever is listening, whether you're, I guess, lowerclassmen or whoever Christine is sharing these talks with. I'm glad you opened my link and I have a lot of experience to share with you. So a little bit about myself, my name is Leon. I am a 5th-year student at UW. I'm an IXD senior. Currently, I'm just a part-time student because I'm just finishing our design courses. I'm not taking any other classes, but I'm really excited to kind of present a little bit about my work experience, whether it's from Expedia, Amazon, or one of my past canceled internships at Google. But if you in the future want more technical advice, such as an interview prep, something you think maybe I didn't cover here, definitely feel free to reach out to me. I think Christine will link my LinkedIn. So that's a great way to contact me. I check it every day. So without further ado, let's get started. So first off, I just want to give a bit of intro on my work experience. Even though I'm, like you, a student, I have had a bit more industry experience just because that's something I've always paid a lot of attention in. So even before I was able to join our major, fun fact about myself, I actually applied twice, which is, I think, a very important lesson to learn as well, right? Like if you, I don't want to use the word fail, but if you have a setback in something, that doesn't always necessarily mean you should give up pursuing it, whether it's looking for internships or, you know, applying for schools. It's important to do a reality check, but if you set your mind to something, then it's always worth to improve and try again. So moving back to my own work experience, before I joined our wonderful IXD program, I was a design intern for Uniway Communications. This was a summer internship, but through that experience, our design agency worked with a lot of names you might be familiar with. So we worked with Huawei. This was before, you know, all the complications between Huawei and a lot of these governments. And we work with NIO. So NIO, if you're familiar with like stock, it's a big Tesla competitor, and they are quite futuristic in their design philosophy. So these were 2 clients that I worked with. Other ones were like Amazon, Mercedes-Benz, that I won't go too into the detail. I've also been a VR UX designer. That's a big passion for me. So I had a canceled VR Google internship, and also I've spent a lot of time on my own VR indie game with ESEC Entertainment. A little bit I'll touch more on is my UX design intern experience at Amazon, that is the past summer, and my contract work experience as a UX designer at Expedia. A little bit about myself, I'm really big on mentorship, on coaching. I really believe in mentorship for UX. So I write articles, I try to help students wherever I can. So these are some of my articles. Some you might have already read on UX Planet. And now we'll go a little bit more into my Amazon internship experience. So this was just last year. This definitely wasn't my first industry experience. I don't want to share too much about this example because I think Betty will be sharing out about this. Betty is another IXD senior. But one topic students often ask is, how much of what we learn in our classes can we apply into our internships? So I think for big tech internships, specifically like Google, Facebook, Amazon, to name a few, our design process is very, very widely accepted in these internship areas, especially the Stibel Diamond method you might be familiar with, or any goal-directed design approach. You can see this is how I broke down my internship project timeline. The first 1 to 4 weeks we spent on research, diving deep into problem space. Week 5 to 7 was design ideating. 8 to 9 was usability testing. 10 to 12 was refine handoff. So something I want to emphasize is not every work project is going to be like this. I'll show my Expedia example next. But generally, if you ever feel like you're not sure what to do on a larger scope project, such as an internship project, always refer back to what you learned in class. Always try to reference the double diamond method. That's a great approach. You can also reference kind of the deliverables the professors set up in the past, because usually in industry, you need to kind of set your own milestones. You might work with a PM, you might have a design manager, but it's always good to kind of write that project brief, set up those milestones yourself. Now I'll talk a little bit about my work at Expedia. So unlike Amazon, at Expedia, I'm a contractor. That means I'm doing a lot more hands-on and technical work. So my work might not cover the whole double diamond method like before, but I am still referencing a lot of what we learn in class, right? Because all the designs I'm doing, I need to justify to convince my stakeholders. That means leveraging the design process, such as using UX research, creating personas, defining use cases whenever I need to. Because even if I'm working on a small feature, the Expedia user group is so big, any small change could impact potentially up to over 100 million users. And something else I want to emphasize is every work experience is going to be very important. So when you're kind of new to the industry, even if you're a junior, don't shut down any opportunities, whether it's a side project or an opportunity that you might not initially be interested in. My first real design experience was, as I said, with Uniway as an exhibit design intern. So that was my focus. But a lot of what I learned from like 3D modeling, working with 3D designers was really helpful later on when I'm working in the field of VR. So don't shut down anything. A lot of times at the end, all the dots connect back. So I think it's really important that when you're kind of new to your career, being open-minded and just really willing to learn and work, even if the pay is maybe not ideal. So for my work back in China, this internship experience was in China, I got paid 100 RMB a day, which equates to like $10 a day, but I was able to learn a lot, right? So like I said, I also want to say, like, other than big tech opportunities, there are always rooms for these small, interesting startups. So also try to work in areas that you are passionate and interested about. You're so new to your career, you don't have to always try to look for like big tech companies. I know for some students, like they have visa problems. So some students I help, like we really try to make sure their portfolio or resume is like ready for a big tech interview. But that isn't always the case, right? You can always try to find these side projects you're really passionate and grow with it. So Sortreverie is one of those projects. I really started to put my time in it about 2 years ago when one of my first internships for a big tech company at Google on the VR team was canceled due to COVID. So instead of, being very, I was very sad about this initially, but as a student, I know I want to focus on learning, right? So making the most out of my Kickstarter summer, I went to launch a Kickstarter with the team, this small indie team, for this Sortreverie project. And that was really successful, right? You can see some of the games here. It's super interesting. I got to learn a lot more about VR, both as interaction designer and all the technical implementations and business requirements when working with the PM. And you can see I'm still leveraging a lot of what we learned in school, but I'm kind of taking it into industry and taking my own understanding to it. And that is why I think taking ownership and challenging yourself in these environments where you keep yourself running is going to be really important. So think of yourself finding an internship or any industry thing as just a way to learn. Don't think of this as a way to like necessarily find a job or a permanent employment at this level, because that's going to make you unnecessarily stressed and you're focusing on the wrong elements of finding an internship. So finally, I won't go too in depth here, but our project was super successful over the summer. I was able to fully commit myself to it. Our Kickstarter was fully funded in 72 hours, raising almost $20,000, being one of the top 10 funded VR titles on Kickstarter. And if you guys are into gaming, we're also ranked #1 on Steam VR. So yeah, that's, I think, time for our Pichukachu event. Feel free to check out some articles that might be helpful for you on Medium. Just type Leon Zhang on Medium and I should be the first search. Definitely connect with me as well. If you can't find the link Christine put, just search my name on LinkedIn and feel free to send me a message. I'm happy to help out wherever you currently at. And if you have any more questions about like recruitment, finding internships, or just how to like strengthen your portfolio, get more work experience, feel free to reach out to me. So thank you so much for your time. And Christine, I hope this was helpful to whoever may be listening. Thank you.